Hey, what's up, guys? We're back with another NFL record prediction. Before I get started, make sure to smash that like button, be sure to subscribe, and follow the Instagram in the description below. I always post on there before I am going to upload or if I'm going to go live. I also do polls on my story to find you guys' opinion on who the better of two players are, just as a fun little game. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure to follow that Instagram. Again, the link is in the description below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Today we're going to be predicting the Seattle Seahawks record for 2021. Real quick, I'm going to go over their roster real quick. I don't think there's been much that has changed from last year. They still have that really explosive offense. You know, Russell Wilson's still top 5 quarterback, arguably top 3. Chris Carson, I think, is still pretty underrated. I think he's a top 12 running back. DK Metcalf, in my opinion, honestly, is a top 5 wide receiver. Tyler Lockett, a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this. I think he's like a top 15 to 20 receiver. I don't think he's, quite top 10 like a lot of people think. I do like the Gerald Everett pickup. I think that really gives them a lot more explosiveness, the tight end position. So that really helps. Moving on to their offensive line, they've got Dwayne Brown at left tackle, who I think he's really good. I think Dwayne Brown's actually really underrated. I think he's going to be pretty decent. Damian Lewis at left guard, not real confident in that. Ethan Posick at center, not a big fan of that, if I'm being honest. Gabe Jackson at right guard. I think he'll be really good there. He was really good with the Raiders this last year. I thought they were dumb to release him. So, And then Brandon Shell at right tackle. Really, that position, I don't think, he's fantastic or terrible. I think he's kind of just meh. So offensive line could definitely use some work, but I think it's better than it was last year. Okay. Moving on to the defense, they've got Carlos Dunlap, Poona Ford, Brian Moan, and Kerry Hyder on the D-line. Carlos Dunlap, I think, can be solid. I don't think he's going to be, a 10-sack guy or anything like that, but he's solid. He's a good player. Poona Ford, I think, is pretty underrated. I think he's a really solid defensive tackle. Not real confident in the rest of that D-line, though. They've got Brian Moan and Kerry Hyder. I'll be honest, as someone who does watch football as much as I do, I really don't even know who those two are. So I think that's really saying something. For linebackers, obviously, Bobby Wagner, top 5 linebacker in the league. In my opinion, top 3. Then you got Jordan Brooks and Ben Burkervin. I'm not sure who that is either, but Jordan Brooks is really good as well. Going to the secondary, I really like the safeties. Jamal Adams, he blitzes a lot, but he gets so much hate. It's become such a meme to hate on him for how much he blitzes that people forget how good he actually is. He's a really good safety. Top 5 safety in the league still. So, I don't think people really understand how good he still is. And Quandre Diggs, I think, is also pretty underrated. I think he's solid. I'm just not real confident in the corners, okay? I thought they were really dumb to get rid of Shaq Griffin. I thought he was really the only bright spot at corner for the Seahawks. Now they don't really have him. They do have DJ Reed and Ahkello Witherspoon, which, maybe they'll be able to hold their own, but I'm not super confident in them. They also have Pierre Desir and Trey Flowers. If I'm being honest, I think Pierre Desir should start over Ahkello Witherspoon. I think he's better than Witherspoon. So they have at least solid depth, but there's no corner on that roster that really jumps out to me. So, overall, I think it's a talented roster, but I think there will be spots that the defense struggles, and I think the offensive line will still have their fair share of struggles as well. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into it. You'll see I've already got the divisional games selected. That's because I've already done my predictions for the other three teams in this division. I think the Seahawks are going to split with every single one of them. I decided to pick them all in their respective stadiums. That's not necessarily how it's going to go about. I think they could, like the Seahawks, for whatever reason, they tend to play pretty well in the Rams stadium, so I could see that being flipped. But I just feel like the Seahawks are going to split with every team in this division. 49ers should be a lot healthier. I mean, they split with the Cardinals last year, and the Cardinals got better. Rams have a better quarterback now, too. There's not really anything here telling me that the Seahawks should sweep anyone in that division or get swept by anyone in that division. So that's kind of my prediction there. But moving on to week 1, we have the Seahawks at Colts. I think the Colts are going to win this. I'm not quite as high on the Colts as a lot of other people. Colts have a good defense still. They still have a really good offensive line. However, I'm not really one that's super confident in Carson Wentz. But I do like their coaching, and I think their defense is going to be good enough to at least slow down the Seahawks enough to, get the Colts offense going, if that makes sense. I don't think I can give the Colts a losing record this year, and I've had them losing to a lot of other teams so far. I just don't think the Colts are gonna lose that many games. Titans at Seahawks. This is a hard one. I think Derrick Henry and Christian McCaffrey are the two best running backs in the league. I can't really say one is better than the other. I think they're kind of 1A, 1B type of thing. If the Titans get Julio Jones, I think the Titans win this. If they do not get Julio Jones, I think the Seahawks win this. Okay? So take this game with a grain of salt. We don't know what's going to happen with that situation yet. So I'm going to give it... Well, I'll give it to the Seahawks because if they do get Julio Jones, he's not with them yet. So, again, take this with a grain of salt, but I'm going to give it to the Seahawks for now. Seahawks and Vikings. I'm going to give this to the Seahawks. I am fairly high on the Vikings this year. I think they have a very talented receiving core. They've improved their defense. I mentioned before, I think Kirk Cousins is really underrated. But I just don't think the Seahawks are going to start out that bad. They always start out the season really hot and do really good throughout the year. So, I just don't think they're going to start off 1-2. I think they're going to beat the Vikings here. I kind of already touched on the divisional games. I think the 49ers defense, especially the pass rush, is just too good for the Seahawks offensive line. I think it's really going to get to Russell Wilson, and they'll win because of their defensive line. But I think later in the year, the Seahawks will make their comeback. They'll be playing against Trey Lance, who I expect to be good, but I don't think he's going to be, the best rookie we've ever seen. I don't think he's even going to be as good as Justin Herbert this last year. So I think when they play in Week 13, I think the Seahawks take it then, but that's why I see them splitting. Rams, kind of a similar situation. Rams also have a really good D-line with Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd. Seahawks have never been good at stopping Aaron Donald. Not many people have, to be fair. Um, but I mean, not many people are great at stopping Russell Wilson either. So that's why I have them splitting. Again, all four teams in this division are so incredibly talented. It's so hard to say that one team is going to sweep another or that one team is going to get swept by another, because they're all so talented, all really well coached actually. The only coach in that division I'm questioning is Cliff Kingsbury. So I can't say that the Seahawks are going to sweep anyone or get swept by anyone. That's just my opinion on it. I think they'll split with every team. Week 6 at the Steelers. I think the Seahawks win this one. Steelers have a good defense, but I mean, I just don't see a lot coming from that team. I mean, their offense. So, okay, Ben Roethlisberger is a talented quarterback, but he's starting to show his age. He's starting to have to make quicker passes now rather than slinging the ball downfield and having that explosive offense that the Steelers used to have for such a long time. I mean, I do like the pickup of Najee Harris, but my question is, are they going to have the offensive line to really block for him? Because that was a lot of their issue last year with James Conner. Their offensive line wasn't great at blocking for him. And I just feel like the Seahawks are going to be good at stopping that run, and, you know, I think they'll be able to get after Ben Roethlisberger a little bit. So I think the Seahawks win this one. Then we have the Saints at Seahawks. I'm going to come back to this one. I'm not completely sure. That one's a hard one for me to predict. I think they beat the Jags. Jags I could see, honestly, with a top 5 pick this next year. Maybe even top 3 again. I like the direction they're going. They don't have the pieces yet. Trevor Lawrence, you can't expect him to win the Jags 10 games. Plain and simply. Seahawks at Packers. I think I'm going to give this one to the Packers. I don't think they'll have Aaron Rodgers. However, they still have a good enough run game, and I actually do, unlike a lot of people, I actually do believe in Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is really talented because I'm not sure if you guys recall, in the 2020 draft, when they were reviewing all of the top quarterbacks, they had Jordan Love as a very Patrick Mahomes type of player. He was able to make a lot of, really good throws at crazy angles, a lot like how people are with Zach Wilson this year. And I think he can be good. I think he can be really good. So even if they don't have Aaron Rodgers, I think they're going to still have a good enough offense that they'll be able to outscore the Seahawks. I also like the Packers' front 7 a little bit more. Plus Jair Alexander is a top 2 corner in the league. I think he honestly could potentially shut down DK Metcalf. And I think that's going to be enough to beat the Seahawks. Week 12 against the football team. I think the football team can be a really good team this year. I think their defense is obviously the most talented in that division, but they, behind the Cowboys, I think also have the second most talented offense in that division. Pretty well coached. However, I think the Seahawks end up winning it. My reasoning for that is their secondary is good, but it's not like top of the league, absolutely dominant good. I think the Seahawks, I think it's going to be a big game for DK Metcalf. I think DK Metcalf and Russell Wilson are going to have a really big game here because I just don't think the football team has that elite number one corner that can really shut down good receivers like DK. So that's why I think the Seahawks win. Texans, I actually think will be the worst team in the league this year. I don't think Deshaun will be there. That's a win. I think they beat the Lions. I'm not real high on the Lions this year. Okay, so these last two games, we've got the Saints and we've got the Bears. Okay. I don't think the Seahawks win both of these. But I don't think they lose both of these either. My thing here is by week 16, it's going to be Justin Fields. And when playing against, a future Hall of Fame quarterback like Russell Wilson, you can't really expect the kid to dominate. I think the Seahawks beat the Bears, but then lose to the Saints. Finish off with an 11-6 record. I think this is good enough to get them into the playoffs. I think they could make it. There's some games here I could see being reversed. I could see them beating the Packers. I could see them possibly beating the Saints. But I could also see them losing to the football team, possibly losing to the Vikings. There's some easy teams on here, but there's also some really difficult teams. So it's a really hard team for me to predict. But I think they take an 11-6 record with the 6th seed in the NFC and make the playoffs. So Seahawks fans, let me know what your prediction for the team is this year. Let me know if I'm too high or low on the team. And I will see you next time. Later.